Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto Was a One-of-a-Kind Genius, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Naruto was inside the study that once belonged to his father. He was now making the study his own since he was the man of the house. His mother was out at work, and since he didn't want to be a bother, he decided to stay behind while doing some work. He would be joining her for lunch anyway. The blonde was looking through some scrolls on the notes that dealt with Konoha's leadership. His father had been Hokage, and although it hadn't been for a long time, he had had the time to gather valuable information about how things worked within the village hidden in leaves. Naruto was going through those notes in order to be able to clearly see where his future lied without the Sandaime Hokage. He was even looking for potential successors to the Sandaime Hokage. Jiraiya was out of the picture as the man has apparently refused to take the job once when it was given to him, and Naruto had observed the man hard enough to be able to tell that he would never take the mantle even if it was given to him once again. Drawing a list of possibilities wasn't that difficult, and Naruto's first thought was Danzo. From the notes he had looked at, it was no doubt that the War Hawk desired to be Hokage, and according to the Sandaime, he had tried to take the seat by force. Given that the Sandaime has stripped the War Hawk of most of his powers within the village, he was now reduced to running political schemes to gain support of the villagers as a respected and powerful elder of the village. The Sandaime Hokage was surely not blind to this, but he could not stop the man from gaining the support he was trying to gain. Naruto was certain that it was only so that the man would not have much opposition when he does try to fight for the position of Hokage. Once he has attained the power, he would no doubt care less about what the villagers think. The blonde wasn't worried about Konoha's future, he was worried about his own. If Danzo took the position, he would really make things for him difficult, and he would have no choice but to flee from the village. His mother was not going to be against the idea because she would know that staying behind would mean that he would be forced to become Danzo's weapon. Not that Naruto would willingly take that up. He would refuse. If he was to become a weapon, it would be a weapon used for the protection of his mother and nothing else. Naruto closed everything before him and decided it was about time he went to see the War Hawk. The man wouldn't make a move to him, with the Sandaime Hokage having threatened him with death if he made a move. It didn't take Naruto too long to find the War Hawk. He knew where the old man was usually occupied within these times of the day, and it was the Hokage Tower. As an elder and a former advisor of the Sandaime as well as a member of the village's council, the War Hawk did have an office within the place. Naruto just figured the office was really used to spy on the Sandaime Hokage than anything. When Naruto got into the office, he found the War Hawk in the company of his two scheming friends. The blonde looked around the room for a moment before his eyes went to Danzo. "I wish to speak to you," he said, looking straight at the War Hawk. Koharu looked at the blonde with an expressionless look on her face. The blonde had seemingly decided to ignore them in favor of demanding something from Danzo. From that tone alone, it wasn't hard to tell that the blonde wasn't asking that Danzo speak to him, but telling him that he wanted to talk to him. "I have been telling Hiruzen that he shouldn't take things lightly with the boy," she said with a shake of her head. "Now look at what we have. A disrespectful child and a shinobi who doesn't care about Konoha, and a Jinchuriki no less. What a waste of potential. He has always been soft and unable to make the hard decisions that must be made," Danzo commented idly. "The fact that the child is related to our previous Hokage doesn't really mean much. In any case, allow me to handle this," Danzo finished calmly, his attention no longer at war colleagues, but at Naruto. Koharu and Homura didn't say anything to Danzo, they just stepped out of the office. Once the two were out of sight, Danzo spoke once more. "What do you want, Jinchuriki?" He hadn't actually expected the blonde to come before him. If he said he wasn't surprised, it would be a white lie. If Mikoto had appeared, then he would have understood since he had approached her son, but this brat. No. It was not expected. He understood that the blonde wasn't an idiot and was actually very smart for his age. Naruto didn't give a physical reaction at being called Jinchuriki. He was a Jinchuriki, so it didn't really matter much to him, but still the fact that it was being said by this conniving bug kind of rubbed off him the wrong way. Even so, Naruto didn't comment on that. I'm told that you called Sasuke into your cave and tried to bribe him with power, Naruto stated calmly. And what if I did? Don't do it again. Danzo rarely looked amused, but this time he was amused. What did this child think he was before him? If Danzo really wanted to, he could take him by force and teach him some manners without the Sandaime knowing, and even after that, he would wipe off those memories just in case he tries to talk. Danzo has been living for far too many years, and this was the first time a mere boy had shown him this much disrespect. For someone who was associated with Itachi, I thought you would be smarter than this, Danzo said calmly. Smarter than what? Naruto asked calmly. Perhaps you have been snaking through the sand too much that you're now hearing things because of the sand in your ears. You're saying this because you think I am making a threat, correct? Naruto shook his head. You don't need to answer that. You're making that statement because you presume I am threatening you to stay away from Sasuke. Danzo blinked. He had honestly not expected that kind of response from the blonde. He looked curious for a few more moments before asking calmly. Why should I stay away from the Uchiha? Because I am making a humble request that you do, Naruto said calmly. I do believe that Itachi has also warned you against doing anything to his brother. I have been given the assignment to look after him, and I will do that job even if it means I have to stand in the way of crafty old snakes that try to trick little kids with power. A black-robed man flashed beside Naruto and spoke to Danzo. Danzo-sama, should I take out to the field? Danzo shook his head. I'm sure he came here knowing things, he said with a slight frown. The blonde was not stupid after all. This was still the Hokage Tower. He didn't know if Anbu had seen him enter the office or not. It was still something else that the blonde could have the audacity to speak to him in such a bold manner. If Sarutobi hadn't refused his request, Konoha would really be having a powerful weapon now. If the blonde was this smart even without him, what more could he have been with him? The possibilities were just mouth-watering and merely reinforced Danzo's desire to get hold of the Jinchuriki and enslave him. I ask again, will you stay away from Sasuke? No, Danzo said. It was a foolish question to ask. The Uchiha was need by him, but as it stood now, the blonde appeared to be the most attracting quality. He was glad that Naruto had come here. His eyes were opened and he would make some decisive plans to get what he wants. He could not allow something so precious to have its own will. It needed to be controlled by him. Naruto showed no reaction once again. How unfortunate, Naruto said tonelessly. I wonder between you and the Sandaime, who has the fangs to bite. I have seen many masks of the Sandaime, but nothing of you. This is why I wonder. Danzo narrowed his eyes slightly. Hiruzen is a naive and foolish cage. And you're the smart and realistic leader who deserves to be Hokage, Naruto stated calmly. Tell me, do you still wish to become Hokage? Still, when have I said I wanted to become Hokage? Danzo was really surprised at the blunt question from the blonde. This was just dangerous. Not to him, but the fact that the blonde was this smart was the problem. He could solve the problem, but as long as Hiruzen was alive, the problem could not be solved. Someone who was this smart and was the Jinchuriki could not be allowed to do as he pleases. It was even a greater problem since the blonde didn't have any loyalty towards Konoha, and what was certain was that he knew about Itachi's mission. If Itachi had given him the mission to look after his brother, then that meant the two were still on contact. At least that was something good. As far as Danzo was concerned, Itachi loved Konoha with everything. He was willing to accept his mission because of his love for Konoha after all. He believed that the Uchiha could be useful in trying to get the blonde to behave. Or he could use that. It would be most effective method of control. Oh, my bad. I was speaking under the impression that you wanted to become Hokage, Naruto said dryly. In any case, don't think you using that weapon you stole. I wouldn't have come here without making preparations. Danzo stared at Naruto for a long minute before he decided it wasn't worth holding back. Listen here, Jinchuriki, when I become Hokage, you will learn to respect me and you will serve Konoha with everything that you have. Either by force or on your free will, you will end up serving Konoha as its weapon. We will harness the power of the Kyuubi. Save yourself the trouble and bring along the Uchiha to my cave, as you call it, and we will begin the process now without the need to use force. If we end up needing to use force, those close to you cannot be guaranteed of safety. Well, that solves everything, Naruto said. The man had threatened his mother. There was no need to talk anymore. He had an enemy. I knew coming here would be a good decision, the blonde said calmly. He twisted around to leave the space. With his hand on the doorknob, Danzo spoke once again. If I were you, I'd make the smart choice. You seem smart. Do what is best. I'm sure you know that there is nowhere you can hide within the elemental nations. If you try to run, I will find you. Naruto glanced over his right shoulder as he spoke. Amusing, he said before opening the door on his way out. Perhaps making enemies with Danzo was not the best of options, but at this stage, Naruto was sure it was unavoidable. There was no way he was going to work with that man. The possibilities of a good working relationship between him and the Warhawk were as slim as the chances of him waking up one day with lots of love for Konoha. For now, he was certain Danzo would stay grounded because of the Sandaime Hokage. This protection gave him the freedom to move around. He didn't have the muscles to fight off all the enemies, which was why he was relying on the Sandaime, for now at least. He had the weapons in his hands to make things happen, and he would drive things into the path that would be most pleasant for him. Noon. Naruto was having his lunch at the Ichiraku ramen stand with his mother. There was no other place that usually had in his mind when he spoke of lunch. He had been coming here for as long as he could remember. Well, he did like the food and his mother seemed to enjoy it as well. There could be no complaints, could there be? He wasn't the kind of person who would be thinking of trying something new. The rest of things around didn't really matter that much. He was most focused on important things and the other mundane things held little importance, and so he didn't bother with them. Mother, Naruto started, his eyes staring at the small bowl before him. What do you wish to be doing in the next 5 years? Kushina glanced at her son and masked her face with a curious look. It was just strange Naruto asking her such a question. She didn't even think that he really gave the future that much of a thought really. Well, it was good that he was giving tomorrow a thought. It made her happy even. At least she could hope for a future that wasn't as bleak as her nightmares. The redhead poked her chin as she dived up into her thoughts, wondering what she could be doing next. Kushina found it ironic that she expected her son to be thinking about the future, but she didn't really have many plans herself. Well, she could blame it on the fact that she was always thinking about Naruto. The future of her son held more importance than her. I don't know really, Kushina gave an honest response. By then you'll be working towards your 18th year, meaning you'll be all grown. I hope we'll be much happier than we are now, she woman added smiling. There could be a lot of things that can happen in the time. Naruto wasn't going to hold out for just one reality. This world could be unpredictable at times. One could never guess which way a human could come at and which masks they would be wearing. Of course that meant that events would change, and as much as people try to plan things, it is the events that occur around us that force us to change our plans. What about you, Naruto? I hope we're still together, then, Naruto simply said. Kushina smiled, shaking her head slightly. She should have expected Naruto to say something like that. She was about to say something, but stopped when she realized that Naruto's tone was a bit different and that there was really a deeper meaning to his words. The woman frowned slightly. What had she been thinking? Naruto wasn't stupid. He could work things out on his own. It wasn't that she hadn't been thinking about the hardships they could face if something happens to the Sandaime. The old man was even reminding her about it because, as he said, he could not hold out forever and he would have to soon leave his office. If he does, he may be unable to do anything for them. Was it why she had been trying to make Naruto learn living without him? Did she really think that a time would come when they would be separated? She shook her head. She would never allow something like that to happen. Although she did acknowledge that there were forces that were beyond her, she would not lie down and allow anyone to take her son away from her. She would fight with all that she has. Don't worry, we will still be together, Kushina said firmly. Naruto smiled, nodding at his mother. I know. I don't really worry about that, he said. But anything can happen. He paused for a moment before adding a positive note to the conversation. I also wish that by then, we have found someone to add to our clan. Even if it is just one member, I would really be happy. Kushina beamed up. Why didn't I say that? She asked. Perhaps we can enjoy the life I once enjoyed in the company of other Uzumakis. I'm sure your time at Izu was wonderful, mother, Naruto said with a smile. But I was thinking, Instead of living the past, why don't we create new memories that will suit us best? I like the thought of creating our own story, not living in past glories. Kushina smiled in thought. New memories, huh? She said to herself before nodding. I like the thought of that, she said. Yes, they could create new memories of their family instead of trying to recreate past glories. The past was the past and she had to accept that. Besides, she could not really recreate the past no matter how hard she tried. The people of yesterday were dead, but she was alive to make new memories and experience new things. Wouldn't it be wonderful if she was thinking of her own clan with Mikoto doing her own work as well? Perhaps that would integrate him to the running of the village. There was much more she could offer to Konoha and that would make her a valuable person who wouldn't be messed with just by anyone. Later that day, I was beginning to think that you no longer cared about poor old me, Kakashi said to Naruto as the two walked through the streets of the Hidden Leaf. Naruto had been walking on his own when Kakashi suddenly appeared before him. He hadn't been actively looking for the Jonin, but rather, minding his own business. What caused such a statement from the silver-haired man was that had bothered offering the man a smile. It had been small, but a smile nonetheless, and Kakashi had seemed rather happy to see it. The blonde looked at the road ahead, seemingly uninterested in what was occurring around the streets with the villagers. Well, he had never really cared unless they made their move on him, and even so, he had really just ignored the villagers. You make it sound as if I cared to begin with, Naruto said, responding to Kakashi's statement. Kakashi put on a mock-hurt look on his face. You're so cold, the Jonin said. After everything we have been through, I thought you'd care about me, even if it was just a little, the Jonin added, almost looking like he was about to cry. Perhaps the Naruto of old may have responded to that, but now he found himself surrounded by serious matters that had much bearing on his future and how he was going to make his decision, as well as how he was going to live his life to be actually indulging in something he saw as trivial. Naruto did have that thought. If he didn't make plans for his future, who would do it for him? Why have you never thought of becoming Hokage? Naruto asked the Jonin. Kakashi's right eye glanced down at the blonde for a moment before he retreated back to his thoughts. This was the kind of conversation he was never going to have with the Sandaime Hokage. He cared about Naruto and would not say things that would entice the old to make some ridiculous moves. Kakashi was very much aware that the Sandaime was capable of many things and he would not risk anything. Why hadn't he thought of becoming Hokage? Why was Naruto even asking such a question? Was he worried about what would happen if the Sandaime retired? Being a former Anbu, Kakashi was very much aware what happened to shinobi who were deemed a flight risk. Naruto ticked all those boxes, and without the Sandaime drastic measures, the blonde would have been taken for the boxes to be emptied. It is much of hassle and I really don't like doing work, Kakashi said a bit carelessly. Thinking of becoming Hokage. Well, if the blonde put an effort to it, he would likely achieve that dream. For someone who was related to a former Hokage and held special ties with the current Kage, it was very much possible. Naruto also had the potential to become a really powerful shinobi in his prime, and that is without including the Beiyu he held into the equation. Naruto snorted in response. I have no such ambitions, the blonde said a bit distastefully as the thought of leading such a corrupt village. There has never been a day I thought of becoming Hokage, he said. But of course that didn't mean that if things were difficult for him, and a corrupt roach like Danzo was driving the village, he wouldn't make a move. With Danzo being Hokage, Naruto wouldn't be free to roam around the elemental nations. The Warhawk had just confirmed that to him. With how connected the man was, the best option that would make him safe would be if he got the man killed and take over the village. Not because he really wished to become Hokage, but because it would be a safe route for him and his mother. It wasn't just his mother now. Although he would have not thought it be possible, but Naruto was beginning to care about Mikoto. He had told Sasuke that he had grown fond of her, and it wasn't because she was his mother's friend, but because he thought of her as a delightful person, much more than the monkeys that run rampant within these streets. It was really a curious thing. Naruto generalized his relationships with care and like. The only person he would willingly admit that he cared for was his mother. He was willing to admit that he cared for the Sandaime and Mikoto. The rest of the people he just liked and some he tolerated. Kakashi shook his head with an eye smile. He really should have expected such a response from Naruto. The blonde was like that. Becoming Hokage for the sake of Konoha would really go against everything that the blonde stood for, and he would definitely no longer be the Naruto he knows. I thought you were falling into Jiraiya's scheme, Kakashi said calmly. I have never been stupid, Kakashi, Naruto said firmly. Jiraiya is a little too late to try to manipulate me. Sometimes I think it is just better to give people what they want just to get them off your back. Naruto wasn't going to do anything for Konoha unless it benefited him greatly. That was the rule, or a law if you like. You're starting to act like how you do in serious situations, Kakashi said. I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing. Knowing you, anything will go, the Jonin sighed. It would mean just more work for him, as the Sandaime would no doubt call him to investigate Naruto's activities. Naruto seemed to shrug in response. Despite how famous you are, it is unlikely at this age you'd have the support needed to become Hokage, the blonde suddenly returning to the matter they had been talking about earlier. The Hyuga hold more political power, and I don't see those people supporting the tardy Sharingan no Kakashi. Kakashi blinked as he glanced at Naruto once again. He was surprised that the blonde was reading much into the political situation around the village. Naruto had never really shown much interest in the matters. He wasn't surprised that the blonde's assessment was spot on. Naruto was a genius when he wanted to be, after all. Why the sudden interest in this? Naruto's eyes turned towards the masked Jonin for a moment before he responded. I don't like rhetoric questions, he said. Kakashi couldn't really say he was surprised by the somewhat cold response from the blonde. He had a good guess on why Naruto was talking about politics and the Hokage seat. The blonde has always liked to be given things straight on and really didn't answer when he was asked obvious questions. The Jonin shook his head. Where you headed to? I'd be shocked if you said you were just taking a stroll around the village, the man said. I think I'd even stop reading Ika for a day, he said in a serious tone. Naruto looked at the man beside him as he responded. Yamanaka flower shop. My mother should be just about done by now. Oh, I heard she is working there now, Kakashi said. Planning on taking her somewhere? Naruto shook his head. We are just going to the Uchiha compound. I have my meeting with Sasuke and she has hers with Mikoto, the blonde said calmly. How is it going with Sasuke, anyway? Good, considering everything, the blonde said. With graduation closer, things will take a new turn. I'm going to be wearing Konoha's headband and will be forced to become a genin. That doesn't give me happy thoughts, but it must be done. Genin life is fun, Kakashi tried to say. There are some moments you only get to experience with being a genin. Trust me, I know. If I had lived a bit differently, I could have opened my eyes more to the world at large, the Jonin said firmly. Moments later, Yamanaka flower shop. When Naruto walked into the flower shop, he was assaulted by Ino, who seemed to have sensed his presence upon entering the shop. The blonde stared at his fellow blonde, but didn't say anything to the girl. She was staring at him. What was he to say? Wasn't she supposed to be at the academy at this time? I see you have abandoned me, Ino said with a stare. Since you returned, you have hardly spent time with me and you're always not available. Sometimes your mother won't even tell me what you're doing, she just tells me that you're away from the village. Well, his Anbu life is an S-rank secret. His mother wouldn't dare tell anyone without clearance. Perhaps she even thought that if the girl knew, she was likely to let it slip. Naruto doubted it was likely. The girl might be an information well, but she could keep secrets. Ino was a smart girl, she knew the importance of secrets. The smart girl is the one that Naruto would not feel pressured to spend a few moments with, but the gossip who just wanted to play was seriously a chore. It was no wonder he had previously just walked into the park with her and took the sides while reading a book. Ino didn't have the challenges that he has. She was a carefree little girl who enjoyed everything she got from her father. Well, that was the joy of growing up like that. Naruto could not say it was wrong. She was allowed to live her life to the way she saw fit. You seem fine, Ino, Naruto said, ignoring her rant. Ino puffed up slightly and stayed on his way with her hand folded across her chest. It seemed that she wanted some answers from the blonde and would not get out of his way until he gave them to her. What have you been doing lately? Visiting Temari in the Suna, it came easily out of Naruto's lips. You know, she is my fiancé after all, the blonde added. That was something believable, and it wasn't like Ino could force him to tell her what she wanted to hear. It wasn't one of those situations she could use blackmail to get him to do what she wanted. Ino looked at Naruto skeptically before speaking. I'd believe that if your mother was forcing you to go, but she didn't really seem pleased that you were continuously going away, and if you were going to visit Temari, your mother would have gone with you, Ino stated firmly. Naruto wasn't surprised that mind of Ino could compute all that. Perhaps her ability to think was the reason he had felt that he missed seeing her. She wasn't a stupid little girl. She was smart, and that he appreciated in a human. I see your mind is still sharp when it comes to juicy information, Naruto said without responding to Ino's statement, which was spot on, by the way. You're not going to answer me. Naruto raised an index finger as he responded. You have not asked me question. Previously you had been merely stating your facts, not asking me a question. I am not obligated to answer those, and I will choose when to answer your question. Ino gave the blonde a blank stare before a moment before she smirked. I know what you have been doing. You forget that my father works in the torture and intel department, he knows things, and he tells mother some things and I overhear some things. I might have also overheard your mother telling mine. If Ino was expecting Naruto to be shocked or surprised, she was disappointed. The blonde's expression didn't change. A second later, he smiled slightly. It is nice seeing you again, Ino. Honestly, I did think about your nagging and big ears while away from the village, the blonde said calmly. Is my mother done? Well, you owe me a meal and not ramen. That will be done when I have time, Naruto said. I have something planned up with my mother. Fine, Ino said, a small huff. As long as you don't disappear again, she said. I am still here, Naruto said. He paused and looked past the Yamanaka. His mother was walking towards the two, smiling. I'm all done, Kushina said to Naruto. Tell your mother that I'll see her tomorrow morning. I have to do some shopping with Naruto. Ino nodded and gave Naruto a hard stare. If you forget me, I will haunt you for the rest of your life, she said in a serious tone before she spun around and stalked away from the two Uzumakis. Naruto merely shook his head as his mother watched curiously. What was that about? She wants me to make it up to her for being absent from her life for some time, the blonde said as he led his mother out of the shop. A couple of days later, Naruto was sitting on a tree branch, waiting for Itachi to appear before him. He had used trickery to get away from his team so that he could meet the Uchiha. Well, it wasn't really trickery, he had merely sent a clone back with them while the real him sped away from the three. Once the mission was over, he had made his move. Arrangements had already been made to meet the Uchiha. Naruto didn't wait long before the Uchiha walked along the ground with his partner right beside him. Naruto hadn't been expecting a third party to join in the party, but he didn't comment on it. He wasn't going to say anything given that Itachi had yet to say anything about the blue man beside him. Itachi stopped right under the tree Naruto was sitting on and spoke. This is my partner in the Akatsuki, Kisame, the Uchiha said. He wanted to meet you and I was forced to drag him along. Naruto glanced down for a moment before speaking. My introductions need not to be made then, the blonde stated. This makes it the third Akatsuki member I have met. Your group is really filled with some powerful shinobi. Itachi was another powerful shinobi, and he was feeling some power from the blue man. That man had faced his father and still lived, and if Itachi was cautious around him then the man was truly a dangerous person. Not that Naruto was worried about that now. He knew how to disable the man, and he would do it eventually. For now, the man who called himself Uchiha Madara was not a threat to him. It was a bit unfair that a criminal group could be made up of such powerful shinobi. Naruto really didn't care about what they were doing. But he didn't like the fact that a group that was so strong existed and could really be a problem to his continued existence. Upon hearing Naruto speak, Itachi turned to face Naruto. What do you mean by that? Third member, Naruto asked as he jumped down the ground, before taking a few slow steps towards the tree trunk. He leaned against it, hands folded across his chest and spoke once more. The one who calls himself Uchiha Madara appeared before me. While not surprised that Madara had appeared before the blonde, Kisame raised an eyebrow at the blonde's body language. He was calm about it, not looking as if he had just met someone who could kill him and someone who was after the Bayou inside of him. The expression on his face was just impassive. If the blonde had the Sharingan and an Akatsuki cloak, Kisame would have said that he was staring at another Itachi. You don't sound too sure that he is actually Madara, Kisame said, staring at the blonde. Of course not. I'm not stupid to believe anything I am told, the blonde said. He must be immortal if he is Uchiha Madara, but if he is, he wouldn't need to hide his face. The mask always hides something. Upon hearing the name, some people are likely to bend to the wonders of fear. If he is indeed Uchiha Madara, he wouldn't need to hide his face. Showing it would certainly make it a lot more fearsome. Besides, I know how Madara's Mangekyo Sharingan looks like, the blonde added. How? The man fought both the Shodai and Nadaime Hokage many times, and the latter was obsessive about studying everything about the Sharingan. He even developed techniques to counter the Sharingan. He even took Madara's body to study it after the battle in the Valley of End. I know because I stumbled upon the Senju's treasure in the Senju compound. Perhaps I was fortunate because my mother is a seal master and we are somehow related to the Senju. Kisame, Itachi said firmly. You have seen Naruto, I wish to speak to him alone. Kisame relented for a moment before sighed and nodded. Fine, he grumbled. Next time we meet, we might be on the battlefield, Gaki, the man said as he walked away. Itachi's Mangekyo came to life as he trapped Naruto in the world of Tsukuyomi. Have you told anyone about this? Naruto shook his head. We agreed with my mother that if we told the Sandaime, he would probably order the information to be taken for safety and Danzo was likely to know about it. It isn't much though. Most of the research is in the Sandaime's hands. But pieces about Madara were available. I think Tobirama hid his research even from his brother. Itachi shook his head. Just be careful, he said. What did that man want? He was making threats and saying something about coming to me to get something. The only interesting thing anyone would within me is the Beiyu in me. Naruto seemed nonchalant about the whole thing. Do you understand what this means? Yes, Naruto said. Don't worry yourself, Itachi. I have never been reckless before and I will not start now. In any case, your mother wants to speak with you and I suggest you do. Why? Itachi had the feeling that Naruto wasn't asking him, but telling him. There must be something more to this and he didn't like it. He had not been expecting to see his mother again anytime soon. He felt that it was somehow too early to see her. Because you have to, Naruto said firmly. She is struggling with Sasuke. It pains her to see her son hell-bent on killing his brother. Sasuke has a mother, surviving members of his clan, and yet he cannot live happily because he is a little obsessed with killing you. That will make him stronger. More detestable before my sight, Naruto stated. I hate corrupt and evil humans who have nothing but hatred in them, and if he continues on that path, he will hurt his mother. I care for Mikoto more than I care for Sasuke. I will kill him if he loses himself to his hatred and ends up hurting his mother in the process. Did my mother say she wants to speak to me? Itachi asked. He ignored the comment about Naruto killing his brother. He was certain that it would go that way. Provided that not much has changed with the blonde, Itachi was certain that Naruto didn't just say he would kill someone without really meaning it. At this moment, the blonde was telling him to change things so that he doesn't go that path. What had he been thinking though? He shouldn't have told his younger brother to resent him. He hadn't really thought about how it would affect his mother. It was a problem, but he was nevertheless happy that Naruto was still around. If the blonde cared for his mother, then he would no doubt protect her if it came to that. Naruto nodded. Yes, he said. Come to Konoha in 4 nights. I will arrange for my mother to spend the night at the Uchiha compound. Itachi appeared to think for a moment. He would need to think about things and how to go about them, but if his mother wanted to speak to him, he had to go. Getting into Konoha was easy for him, being that he is a former Anbu captain and Genjutsu was quite effective in getting his way. The Akatsuki is after Bijuas. They have yet to make a move, yet. They are busy trying to find the location of other Jinchurikis and gathering money for operations. They will make their move soon, Itachi said to Naruto. If it takes years, my body will not allow me to be of help to you. Well, at least you have those eyes I gave you. You might have to make use of them someday. Going against S-rank criminals, huh? Naruto said in a calm tone. Certainly, if they attacked now, it would have no choice but to unleash the Kyuubi. but given that the chakra will be forced out of my seal, it will be quite dangerous to my body. I thought your seal was made to allow you to use the Kyuubi's chakra. Yes, but during my years away from Konoha, I came to learn that there is a key needed to unlock the gate that holds back the Kyuubi. Using it now is done forcefully by weakening the seal, and since it is raw Beiyu chakra, it has negative effects on my body, Naruto said. More training will have to be done, and I may have to leave Konoha once again with S-rank criminals on my tail. As you are now, you can't do anything, but you do have people who can protect you. As long you stay in Konoha, you'll have the protection. I don't recommend leaving the village. Naruto failed to offer a response to Itachi's recommendation. Come to Konoha and we will deal with other challenges we are facing. My short time in Anbu has taught me that you can't do everything in your own. It is surprising that something like that is coming from me, but that is the reality I have come to understand. You can't do everything on your own, Itachi, neither can I. That was something that Naruto learned with being Anbu. The eyes could not see all fronts. With that reality, you needed more pair of eyes that would look where you cannot see. That was how things worked in this world, and Naruto was learning. He hated it, but it was a reality that faced. Of course, when it came to his mother personally, things would be different. Itachi gave Naruto a tiny smile. You're really growing, he said lightly. It was a good sign that made him happy. I have been shouldering burdens on my own for a bit too long since Shisui died. I've always thought I could handle everything. But the reality is that I can't. If I had that power, I wouldn't have requested you look after Sasuke. He never thought that he would actually be getting some lessons from Naruto of all people. The blonde has often admitted to being narrow-minded. Perhaps things were changing because he was in Anbu. That kind of a world had its way when it came to changing people. In any case, if he was able to work things out with his Sasuke, things could really take a different outlook. But he feared that if Sasuke knew, he would do something stupid like try to attack the village elders. Itachi shook his head. He had made his choices. Shouldn't he allow Sasuke to make his choices as well? He could not decide how Sasuke could live his life. Uchiha compound. Nights later, Mikoto was feeling slightly nervous about meeting her elder son once again. It was midnight and she was pacing around the kitchen, waiting for her son to appear, with Naruto sitting comfortably on a chair beside the table. He didn't look as nervous as the Uchiha, just calm. Well, he really showed his nerves. Mikoto wished she could be as calm as the blonde, but she was a little afraid. What if he doesn't show up? What if he says no? What if things get out of hand? Anbu could spring in this place at any moment and they would be in trouble for harboring an S-rank criminal. They would be labeled traitors. He will come, Naruto said to Mikoto in a calm and slightly firm tone. Relax, will you? If you keep this up, you will be tired when he gets here. Naruto didn't have any doubt that Itachi would come. There had been no need to Itachi to say that he would come. If he heard the message, he had to come. Naruto had even placed a silencing seal around his mother's room so that she isn't disturbed by anything in her beauty sleep. This was also a burden that his mother didn't have to carry. It was also not his secret to tell. If Mikoto wanted to tell his mother, she would. I know, but the nerves just won't go away, Mikoto in a hushed tone, standing still for the first time a couple of minutes. She then went on to sit across the table, facing Naruto before speaking once again. Would it be good for Sasuke to be here? Speak to Itachi first, Naruto said. Do you wish for me to be of help? Mikoto nodded with a smile. Of course you're needed. If you're not there to defend my points, who will? I need my delightful hero to be with me in difficult situations. The Uchiha wished Naruto would grow up to be a man already. In mind, he was already a man, but he was still just a child. She knew he would really become a supportive husband to whoever he marries. Even if he didn't seem to have any interest, Mikoto would teach him everything Kushina could not. It was the least she could do for him after everything. I will do what I can, Naruto said with a small smile. At that moment, Itachi flashed into the room, his expression stoic. We should go to the study. There are a lot of activities outside, he stated, already walking away. Mikoto merely shook her head as she walked beside Naruto. Just like his father, she whispered to the blonde. Has a hard time expressing his feeling, she paused, and smiled at Naruto. I can't say the same thing for you because you don't have much in that department. Naruto glanced at the woman for a moment before staring at the back of Itachi. He could not find anything wrong in her statement despite not saying anything in response. He didn't have much to express, hence his usual indifferent and impassive mask. When the three arrived at the study, Mikoto smiled warmly at her elder son before closing the distance between them. She pulled the stiff Uchiha into a warm embrace, and Itachi just stood still like a pole, showing some surprise on his face. Mother, he said questionably. That is not how you hug your mother, Itachi, Naruto said, sitting atop of the small desk in the study, watching the two impassively. It has been years since your mother saw you and she has missed you. As my mother would say, show some love. Itachi struggled with his thoughts for a few moments before returning the embrace. There. Was it so hard? Mikoto said as the two separated. Itachi just shook his head and watching his mother walk away from him. She sat down beside Naruto and faced him, as was the blonde. It felt like an interrogation room, but even with those eyes staring at him, waiting for him to crack, Itachi would not. I thought you'd hold some resentment towards me for what I did and I was trying to push Sasuke towards, Itachi said quietly. You're my son and nothing will change that. Mikoto gave an evasive answer but one that allowed Itachi to know that no matter what, she would always love him as a mother loves her child. What did you try to do to Sasuke? Hate me in order to become stronger. I thought that would be the motivation he would need, Itachi said calmly. Hatred really did fuel some cruel intentions in people and some people worked like demons in order to get the power they needed to be strong. He thought because his mother was present, Sasuke would not completely fall into the dark side. Naruto was present as well, so he had things sorted out. Really? Mikoto said slowly. Naruto is plenty strong, but it isn't hatred that makes him strong. Our Sharingan's evolution depends on our emotions. Without any, the Sharingan cannot evolve. The pleasant way for Sasuke to grow stronger would have been to just leave things as they were and allow him to strengthen his resolve into protecting what remains of the Uchiha. All these things, Itachi shook his head. He hadn't thought things like this. Perhaps it was because the original thought had been the Uchiha clan's massacre, not leaving some behind. That changed a few things, but it was apparent that he didn't change his thinking. He didn't want his brother to grow up to become corrupted. Sasuke was a good child. He had been a loving and sweet child when he was younger. But after what he had done, he had changed things. He didn't even want to face his younger brother even. Was he simply running away from a problem that only he could solve? What his mother said made sense. Why hadn't he done through that in the first place? Was it because he didn't want Sasuke to know about what he did? What would happen if Danzo goes to Sasuke and tells him that you were ordered to kill your clan by the Sandaime Hokage? That cripple is smart enough to devise a strategy that would fool Sasuke, Naruto said. You have done things in the way you believe, why don't you allow Sasuke to do the same? Are you suggesting that I tell him the truth? Naruto nodded. That Uchiha knows the truth. He said you were useful, but what if he decides that you're no longer useful and decides to have Sasuke replace you? That man, Uchiha Madara. That was a major problem, but Naruto seemed to have things thought out. Well, he could not be surprised. When it came to safety and making plans to ensure for that safety, the blonde worked like a prodigy. That Uchiha? Mikoto asked. Are you talking about the one who caused the Kyuubi incident? Naruto nodded. Yes, that one. I think that is also something that must never get out. Konoha cannot know about that Uchiha. If the village knows, they will only say that they suspicion about the Uchiha clan being involved in the Kyuubi incident was true. Given how those people act, I don't think they will take a second before praising Itachi for what he did. Itachi blinked upon hearing that from Naruto. The blonde was really surprising him. Who could have thought that Naruto would actually have something like that in thought? But he did know that what the blonde had said was very possible. The villagers might actually praise for ridding of the clan what was responsible for the losses they incurred during the Kyuubi rampage. What would become of the clan then? Itachi could not really see what would happen if such a reality were to come to pass. If I didn't know any better, I'd say that you only thought of something like that because you care for the future of the Uchiha clan, Itachi said with a tiny smile. Even though Naruto wasn't doing anything because he cared for his clan, it still made him happy. I am curious, though. Why? Mikoto smiled and responded for Naruto. Because he is my beloved hero, if things go well in my family, I am happy and Kushina is happy. Naruto nodded in agreement with Mikoto's words, but before he could respond, Sasuke burst into the study, a dark look on his face. Itachi, the youngest Uchiha, growled, his eyes flashing dangerously. He looked around the room and saw his mother and Naruto. He sent a dark glare at the latter before turning his attention towards his traitorous elder brother. Just in time, Naruto said calmly as he got up from the desk and landed on the floor gracefully. I shall leave you Uchihas to handle your personal matters. It is late anyway, I need my sleep. The blonde was already walking away when he said that. He was stopped from leaving when Sasuke stepped in front of him. What are you doing with this traitor? The same question can be asked about your mother, Naruto said mildly before shoving the Uchiha out of his way. Itachi, make sure you keep him sedated for the night so that he doesn't go on a rampage. Mikoto shook her head as she watched the blonde walk away from the study. It was a nice gesture from him, but still, she would not have minded if the blonde had stayed behind. In her eyes, Naruto was a part of this family. Itachi was certain the only reason Sasuke wasn't lunging at him was because their mother was present in the room. If she had not been here, the boy would have charged at him. The elder sibling activated the Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke, it seems you and I have something we need to talk about. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.